The Shooting of Dan McGrew by Robert Service. A bunch of the boys were whooping it up in the Malamute saloon. The kid that handled the music box was hitting a jagtime tune. Back of the bar, in a solos game, sat dangerous Dan McGrew. And watching his luck was his light of love, the lady that's known as Lou. When out of the night which was 50 below and into the din and the glare, there stumbled a miner, fresh from the creek, dog dirty and loaded for bear. He looked like a man with a foot in the grave, yet hardly the strength of a louse. Yet he tilted a poke of dust on the bar, and he called for drinks for the house. There was none could place the stranger's face, though we searched ourselves for a clue. We drank his health, and the last to drink was dangerous Dan McGrew. There are men who somehow grip your eyes and hold them hard like a spell, and such was he that he looked to me like a man who lived in hell. With a face most hair and the dreary stare of a dog whose day is done, as he watered the green stuff in his glass, and the drops fell one by one. Then I got to figuring who he was and wondering what he would do, and I turned my head, and there watching him was the lady that's known as Lou. His eyes went rubbering around the room, and he seemed in kind of a daze, till at last that old piano fell in the way of his wandering gaze. The ragtime kid was having a drink. There was no one else on the stool. So the stranger stumbles across the bar and flops down there like a fool. In a buckskin shirt that was glazed with dirt, he sat, and I saw him sway. Then he clutched the keys with his talon hands. My God, but that man could play. Were you ever out in the great alone, when the moon is awful clear, and the icy mountains hem you in with a silence you most could hear? With only the howl of a timber wolf, and you camped there in the cold, a half-dead thing in a stark dead world, clean mad for the muck they call gold. While high overhead, green, yellow, and red, the northern light swept in bars. Then you've a haunch what the music meant, hunger and night and the stars. And hunger not of the belly kind that's banished with bacon and beans, but the gnawing hunger of lonely men for a home and all that it means. For a fireside far from the cares that are, four walls and a roof above, but oh, so crammed full of cozy joy, and crowned with a woman's love. A woman dearer than all the world, and true as heaven is true. God, how ghastly she looked through her rouge, the lady that's known as Lou. Then, on a sudden, the music changed, so soft that you scarce could hear. But you felt as if your life had been looted clean of all that it once held dear. That someone had stolen the woman you loved, and her love was a devil's lie. That your guts were gone, and the best for you was just to crawl away and die. 'Twas the crowning cry of heart's despair, and it thrilled you through and through. I guess I'll make it a spread misery, said dangerous Dan McGrew. The music almost died away. Then it burst like a pent-up flood, and it seemed to say, "Repay, repay," and my eyes were blind with blood. And the thought came back of an ancient wrong, and it stung like a frozen lash. And the lust awoke, to kill, to kill. Then the music stopped with a crash. And the stranger turned, and his eyes, they burned in a most peculiar way. In a buckskin shirt that was glazed with dirt, he sat, and I saw him sway. Then his lips went in kind of a grin, and he spoke, and his voice was calm. "And boys," he says, "you don't know me, and none of you care a damn. But I want to state, and my words are straight, and I bet my poke they're true, that one of you is a hound of hell, and that one is Dan McGrew." Then I ducked my head, and the lights went out, and 2 guns blazed in the dark, and a woman screamed, and the lights went up, and 2 men lay stiff and stark. Pitched on his head and pumped full of lead was dangerous Dan McGrew, while the man from the creek lay clutched to the breast of the lady that's known as Lou. These are the simple facts of the case, and I guess I ought to know. They say the stranger was crazed with hooch, and I'm not denying it so. I'm not as wise as the lawyer guys, but strictly between us two, the woman that kissed him and pinched his poke was the lady that's known as Lou.